Welcome into another episode of Sun Times Game Week. I'm Annie Costable alongside Michael O'Brien. We are without Beth Long today, but we have all of our exciting high school playoff action to go over with you guys. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our content partner, ABC7, for sharing this on their Facebook Live page. Let's get right into it. First topic of the day is the news.
Yeah, once again we have sad news. Lewis Thorpe, the North Lawndale coach for about 18 seasons, he was at North Lawndale. He died on Thursday. He passed away in his sleep. Just really sad stuff. You know, he'd had some health problems over the years and stuff, but his family said he was doing really well lately. I actually saw him about a month ago at his son plays football for North Lawndale, Jalen. So I saw him at the game. You know, he was excited about the season, kept telling me Lou was very big on getting ranked in the preseason, so he kept telling me how good they were going to be, blah, blah, blah. But I've written a lot about him. You can check that on the website. But I think one thing we didn't mention about Lou, basketball-wise, was what he did at North Lawndale. I mean, that's a school that no one had ever heard of, sports-wise, until he showed up there. And, you know, 415 and 176 is his career record.
Insane.
He won a state title, won a city title, and we've seen over the years how difficult it is to just build a program from scratch.
Right.
A lot of people can come in and have success at schools that have been successful, but Lou really built it himself. It'll be interesting to also to see how that program goes on, but condolences to his family, to everybody, you know, everybody in the basketball community here knew Lou real well. It was upsetting.
I think anytime you lose someone in the basketball community here in Chicago, you see what a family it truly is, and especially in this case, you saw the basketball community really come together and, you know, rally around who he was and share special stories, which was nice to see, and I'm sure his family appreciated. Girls basketball begins practice today. A couple teams that I think we should watch this season: Geneva, back-to-back state champs, 4A. They lost their 4 leading scorers, so that's going to for sure make a difference this season. But the talent that they continue to produce there, I think we could see them being a talented team again. Whitney Young, this is a team that we're going to have to watch because they were so young last season. They finished 19-6, but they're only graduating 2 players, and their 4 leading scorers were all underclassmen. So Whitney Young was another team to watch, and then Kenwood and Simeon are similar stories like Whitney Young, a very young teams, and it's going to be an exciting season for girls basketball this year.
So, Whitney Young coach Corey Irvin, we just talked about girls basketball.
And we're going to do more of it.
I got a lot of heat in March from her about no girls basketball in the Sun Times. So
we're going to do more of it, Coach Irvin.
There you go. Let's see, next up news-wise, Ty Gavin, Notre Dame's Ty Gavin, who we've talked about since the first show. One of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah.
You know, he's amazing, but he got hurt, and we didn't know if he was going to play. He did suit up and play in the first round against St. Ignatius. From what I hear, it's an ankle injury, and he was clearly a bit hobbled by it, but he still managed to rip off a 90-yard touchdown run to win the game. So
casual.
We'll see how it goes in the second round for them. The other kind of bit of news is the Phillips quarterback situation, which we had a little bit about in the newspaper today and on the website. It's kind of been up in the air all year long. Leonard Smith started from Hubbard. We talked to him at the beginning of the season. He got hurt. He's been out since week 5. And the junior, Terrion Thrower, has stepped in. And he's played well and led them to, I think, 7 wins in a row. But it's not settled. We saw, you know, Jaleel Billingsley, the big tight end, coming in the Wildcat formation an awful lot in that game on Saturday. I think that'll probably continue. But the news is that Leonard Smith is healthy again, and he could play on Saturday if they need him. And it's a really interesting thing to keep an eye on because Phillips' offense just doesn't really look right yet. It was bad in the first half on Saturday against Lake Forest. In the second half, they needed superstar plays from Fabian McCray and Jaleel Billingsley to win. They just need some more consistency, so it'll be interesting to see if Leonard Smith does come in and give them that.
Did Coach talk about Leonard Smith being someone that could come in and bring some stability, or was he not?
He wasn't even committing to him coming into play. He said, we'll see how it goes. He wants to see how it goes in practice. So that's something that they're going to need to work that out real quick with the teams they have coming up.
Right, absolutely. How much do we think, though, that, you know, even at this point with the instability, you know, with the junior quarterback, how much stability could Leonard really bring, having not played, you know, not even been in the system?
Yeah, I mean, got hurt in week 5, and he wasn't on the team last year.
So
he's
it's like
only
they
played,
haven't, right.
Yeah, 4 or 5. See, I don't know. It's going to come down to, I think, whoever takes care of the ball the best. Terrion Thrower, the junior, had 3 interceptions against Lake Forest, and that's something that they just, it's a shock they won the game with that still going on.
So I guess practice.
Yeah.
That's what's going to be the deciding factor
We
this
will
week.
see, and we'll find out against Prairie Ridge at Gately on Saturday.
Okay, well, as you can see, we're minus Beth Long here today, so I'm going to take over for our Super 25 update. There isn't a ton of news in the Super 25 other than Bolingbrook being the only losing team from the Super 25. Last week they were our number 19 team, obviously fall out this week, and in at number 25 is Hersey, 9-1. They're making their debut in the Super 25 for the first time this year. Right behind them, though, is Antioch, and Beth said that she, put Hersey up into the 25 spot just because of their win over Lincoln Way Central, 52-13. Just, a dominant win obviously means a little bit more for that team. So that's all of our news about the Super 25. Beth thinks maybe this week we'll see a little bit more of a shakeup. I mean, again, week 1 of the playoffs, there wasn't too much.
There'll be a ton of shakeup because so many ranked teams have to lose because they're playing one another.
Exactly. So this will
be
be the week that the Super 25 really, gets broken down and rebuilt.
If anyone cares.
Yeah.
At this point, once the playoffs have started, the rankings seem a little dumb, but we still do them. All right, we're going to break down each of the classes here and kind of little format we have. We're going to start out with kind of the overview and then kind of the big thing we noticed, then go into the first round upset, if there was one, and there was in almost every class, and then take a look at the second round, what the best second round game is and what the possible upset is in the second round.
And if you have questions, we're here until 5 o'clock, so submit them on our Facebook page. All right, first up,
we're going to start with 8A. Sorry, Southwest Prairie, but it looks like, we talked about it last week, how they have a closed system and none of the teams play anybody else all season long, so we just kind of have to guess and go off the eye test how good they are. And just based on results this week, they failed miserably.
Yeah.
Minooka lost to Loyola. They weren't really in the game at any point. I was at that one. Plainfield South lost, and Oswego won. So they went 1-3 overall.
But it was close.
Yeah, Oswego East also lost. Oswego was very close with Taft at halftime.
Right.
No offense to our friends at Taft, but that should not happen to a team ranked as high as Oswego's ranked. So that's a worry. So I think the takeaway from Class 8A is Southwest Prairie probably overrated. We'll see if Oswego can make that charge. Beth's got them ranked number 3. That's looking a little lofty, perhaps.
I think so as well. And I mean, again, we'll see against Loyola that teams continued to.
That's Oswego plays Loyola, so we'll find out real quick.
And as challenged as they were in the beginning of the season, they've continued to improve. And like we talked about before the show started, coach over there just does an excellent job with whoever he has on the field. So.
Yeah, we said Minooka was great. That was a fun game, great atmosphere. So the fans are coming out in the Southwest Prairie, which unlike Bolingbrook, I was at Bolingbrook Friday night. The 8A team that lost and left, and that was just miserable. There was a few hundred fans. I don't know what's going on with Bolingbrook.
Not a ton of support.
No, it was. You don't want to go to a playoff game and have nobody be there. It was
especially in
cold
the
and boring.
Chicago weather. I mean,
it was not good.
Not enjoyable.
The thing to take notice, I think, from Class 8A, we talked a lot about Homewood Flossmoor's defense. They've been talking about that since the preseason. They shut out Fremd 21-0, and to shut out a good team in the playoffs is really difficult. So I think that's something to keep watching going forward, and it's something I really noticed. So to look at the second round, I think.
Marist, Naperville Central.
Yes, it's going to be super annoying because they're both the Red Hawks, and although
the decipher in Michael's write-up here was one Red Hawks team had a capital H.
Marist does capital H.
And
One word,
Naperville
capital
Central
H, which is also annoying.
Does not.
So I think I'll probably be covering that game for the newspaper, and it's not going to be fun for copy editors, but that's a great game. I mean, Marist has just been so impressive all season, and we saw how they stopped Nazareth's great quarterback. J.J. McCarthy. They basically shut him down, and so now they're playing the best quarterback in the entire state, Peyton Thorne. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they're able to do that. I mean, that's going to be one of the best games we probably get in the whole playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, based on what I've seen from those teams,
Naperville Central, though, has played such a tough schedule, and that's what we said in last week's show, is that's going to make the difference. What was their seeding? They had
21.
Yeah,
Because
21.
they had the
But
3 losses, but they gave Lincoln Way East their closest game of the season.
right.
So that says more than anything else anybody could do at this point.
Right, which is something we talked about. The seeding is really off. I mean, every loss does not stack up next to one another. So again, a team like Naperville North, who is the 20 seeded at 21, that doesn't really match to their talent that they have on that team.
No,
so
the
this
seeding
will
is
be
all
a
done
good-
mathematically by the IHSA formula. They don't really care how good anybody thinks anybody is. So, second round upset watch. Definitely watch number 19 Loyola over number 3 Oswego. Oswego has to come to Wilmette and play at Loyola, and Loyola has lost at home a handful of times in the last decade. So, I think Oswego might be in trouble. That's the one to watch. Okay, let's go into 7A. 7A is a weird class. We've got the really good teams and then kind of everybody else. There were some interesting things, though, kind of historically. Maine West, which has been around a really long time, like longer than me, has never won a playoff game, and they did. The first ever playoff game, so that's great for Maine West. And Glenbard East won its first since 1999. So 2 teams that had not had a playoff win in a really long time got one. Kind of the thing to notice there is, you know, as I just said, we've got the really good teams and everybody else. Simeon, Willowbrook, and Mount Carmel, all 3 shut out their opponents. It's just a really lopsided field, and it looks like that might continue for at least another round.
Mount Carmel's win over TF South, although they did get the shutout, it was a really sloppy game. There was, I think, 6 turnovers, and if not 6, there were 5 turnovers in the first half alone. And I believe 4 of those were from TF South, so Mount Carmel only had 2 turnovers. But again, it was a really sloppy game. So they have some kinks to work out before they play a talented Lake Zurich team, which knocked them out of the playoffs last season. So Coach Lynch, who obviously wasn't there last season, talked about that after the game, saying that Lake Zurich was the team that they wanted. They want to.
Yeah, there's a lot of history in the playoffs between Mount Carmel and Lake
Yeah.
Zurich. It might be a really bad matchup for Lake Zurich, though, because Mount Carmel's very strong defensively, and Lake Zurich has had a lot of trouble offensively. Those are 2 good defenses going at it. It could be a really low-scoring one. But yeah, that should be definitely interesting because there's a lot of history between those
I
two.
think you're right with those points, but despite those facts, when you're coming into a matchup like this, the history does play a role. You know what it means to the school, to the players, to the coaches, factors in. So I think it could be closer than we think.
Zurich, yeah, so that'll help too. The first round upset was we talked about Maine West got their win. They beat Bennett 20-18. It wasn't an upset according to the seeds, but Bennett's a team that was kind of on the cusp of the rankings all year. Might have been in at some point. So Maine West beating them is a bit of a shock. Best second round game. Simeon's not going to like to hear this, but I think it's going to be Simeon at Lincoln Way West. Simeon has to go down to New Lenox, and it's just Lincoln Way West football field looks like it's the end of the earth. There is like no civilization around it for miles. The wind whips through and there's crazy people screaming out there, and it's going to be a strange setting, and they're good. You know,
Right.
it's going to be a real test for Simeon, and Simeon has not had tests.
This season.
And Dante Culbreath, the coach, keeps saying that's not a problem, but it's a problem.
Right.
You know, you need
It's
to
not
play.
a problem until it is a problem.
Yeah, you need to play close games, and they just haven't had a close game, and they're going to get one in New Lenox on Saturday, and that could be really tough. So keep an eye on that.
I still think, though, and I said this last week, Simeon plays like this well-oiled team of a team, like if that even makes sense. They're just this united front, and so, you know, I think it'll be a challenge for them, but, you know, it might not be as off of a game as we think.
Yeah, I mean, they should be able to win, but it's going to be. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a good game. Maybe they'll finally get their close game that
Right.
they're going to need for the next couple rounds. The upset watch, I don't feel real strong about this upset watch, but yeah, I had to pick one, and it's a Hersey at Nazareth. I mean, we'll see.
It's possible.
Yeah, they have a chance, but probably
And
not.
if it happens, that'll be that'll set up an interesting quarterfinal game if Simeon does move on, because we've been saying since the beginning that quarterfinal matchup for Simeon is going to be super challenging if it's against Nazareth.
6A, we'll move on. First round lesson there. Unlike the Southwest Prairie, the Fox Valley is not overrated.
Not overrated at all.
Cary Grove, Prairie Ridge, and Crystal Lake South all won. Combined score of 132-21. Kind of knew they were the real deal. The thing to notice in that bracket, to me, was Antioch beating Revis 49-0. I mean, Beth does not have Antioch ranked. They're undefeated. They've been ranked all year. They have one of the
They're
the best.
26th.
Yeah, they may be the best player in the state. Ethan Kalikmanis, I believe is how you say it. He's the guy, he's got Big Ten offers. He's a sophomore. He's an excellent quarterback, one of the state's best players. I think this is a team that could do a lot more damage than I think anybody realizes in 6A. First round upset in this, 6A was number 11 Crete Moni beat number 6 Bloomington 41-13.
Which is one we all predicted.
We figured, yeah, so not a big shock. And the best second round game, we'll move on to the second round here, Prairie Ridge and Phillips. It's going to be at Gately. We talked about it briefly. Prairie Ridge won 6A last year. Phillips won 5A last year. Neither team is as good as they were last year, but it should still be a really fun game.
What do you think about that game? What do you think about Phillips' chances of beating Prairie Ridge? Because Prairie Ridge is not a team
I think they're
to
good
take on lightly.
Because I think it's a great matchup for Phillips. Because if you've seen Phillips play, they just sell out on defense. They dare you to throw the ball. They put no one in the secondary, and they just blitz and pressure you and want to destroy your run. And all Prairie Ridge does is run. So they have to figure out a way to pass the ball, and they don't pass the ball well. We saw that in the Cary Grove game. So I think they run the triple option, Prairie Ridge. I think all of that plays into Phillips' hands. It's at Gately. That plays into Phillips' hands. So as long as Phillips takes care of the ball, which is why the quarterback thing will be key, I think they should be able to win that one. Might be a little tougher next week, though, against Cary Grove.
And the second round upset to watch again is Crete Moni.
I think so.
What do we think about Crete Moni? Another team that their seeding, makes it look as though it's going to be an upset, but really they're a talented team.
Yeah, that's another weird one where they have to divide the brackets into north and south, and so even though Crete Moni's in our area, they're in the southern fringes, so they got shoved down in with the south teams. So that's part of why they got seeded weird. But yeah, I think they should be able. I mean, let's be honest, I don't really know much about Glenwood, except they have a great baseball program. And they're at state a lot. So it's not all bad there, but yeah, I think Crete Moni should be able to handle that.
5A?
5A. Well, we had a lot of public league teams in 5A. 5 of them lost. Not even close. They weren't competitive. Not great.
It's exciting to see as many public league teams make it to the playoffs as did this year, but what's going to be the difference maker in pushing them past just making it? Having teams actually have success in the playoffs as opposed to just making it there and getting blown out by some of these teams.
That's a really good question because I'm starting to wonder myself. That's something I'd like.
It's got to be like playing outside of the public league.
I'm wondering if they've plateaued. There's only so much you can do with 2 coaches, and they don't have the resources, they don't have the coaches, they don't have their own fields. I'm starting to wonder if these programs that have been doing really well have hit a plateau now and they're never going to be able to compete with a suburban team that has way more money, way better facilities, twice as many coaches, 3 times as many players. It just gets to be, I'm just not sure if Peyton and back of the yards, the other teams are going to be able to keep moving forward, or if they've plateaued, we'll see.
So then I guess a follow-up question I have when you say all of that is, for a public league team, is it about making it to the playoffs, or is it just about getting through your public league schedule and being successful in that? Is that enough for
I think making
the
state playoffs for these teams was huge. It gets more people excited about football. They're going to be able to maybe get some kids to go to Peyton and want to play football instead of going to St. Rita or Mount Carmel or something like that. Every bit of that helps. So making the state playoffs was huge, without a doubt. This is also another, I think 7A and 5A are the 2 brackets that aren't real exciting. 5A, Montini and Hillcrest just dominated in the first round. It's really hard to see a way in which Montini and Hillcrest aren't playing in that title game.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, more so than any other bracket, this really looks like
clear cut. That's what we're predicting it, as are, I'm sure, many people.
Yeah, there was an upset, another one not really upset. Joliet Catholic, they were at the 14 seed. They beat number 3 Metamora 49-20 in Metamora. It was kind of shocking that they beat them by so much.
At home.
Yeah. The best second round game, just kind of picked this because there wasn't much else, and we wanted to mention Elmwood Park. It's Elmwood Park against Evergreen Park. Elmwood Park picked up their first playoff win since 1985.
Pretty special stuff.
And you got to think they have a decent chance here to win the second round games. They could get 2, so that's exciting for Elmwood Park, which is a school that I was out there for a basketball game last year, and I think it was the first time I'd been there. It's just not a school with much of an athletic history around here, so it's nice to see them get a little spotlight for a change.
Absolutely.
Upset watch, Joliet Catholic, again, number 6 Marion from way downstate.
Joliet Catholic was another team that was challenged intensely throughout their entire season. What do you think was the biggest challenge for that team this year?
Yeah, they lost. They had that great running back kind of combo, and one of them went down hurt. So I think they've figured out how to recover from that, and that's good. And just they played bigger schools all season, and now they're down playing 5A schools. So everybody's smaller, everybody's less athletic. They're not as deep. So that's really helping Joliet Catholic right now. They're like a big school playing in a small school class.
All right, next up,
4A. First round lesson from that one, there was just huge scores in this, all these 50 and 60 point games. 10 teams scored more than 40 points. That's in the 16 games. That's a lot. And the big one here for me to notice was Urban Prep Bronzeville. They beat St. Edward 24-14 at Gately. That's a huge win for them. We only had, I think, 4 CPS teams win in the state playoffs. It's a big win for Urban Prep Bronzeville. They got a lot of size, and that they were able to overwhelm St. Ed's with that. So it sounds like that might be something that carries on. We'll see.
Yeah. One of my takeaways, I mean, this isn't much of a takeaway. I'm sure everyone is keen to what I